It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode is brought to you by Roundup Ready-to-Use Weed and Grass Killer. It's got the Sure Shot wand, which extends 2 feet to reduce bending over. And its protective shield fits over the weed to help contain the spray. It kills existing weeds to the root so they don't come back. Which means instead of thinking about weeds, you can think about whatever you want to think about. Like unicycles, or barbecue spare ribs. Or what goes through a person's mind when they look at a newborn baby and decide to name it Chester. The Roundup brand. Think about what you could think about when you're not thinking about weeds. Always read and follow pesticide label directions.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 352 of Locked On Canadiens. This episode is brought to you by Locker Room. If you download the app on iOS, you can join us once a week as we talk about all things Canadiens, hockey, nonsense, anytime after the game. Locker Room, changing the way we talk sports. I am one of your hosts. I am Scott Matla, and I'm joined, as always, by the active stick, Laura Sabat. Laura, it's our mailbag episode, and that's always a good time, is it not?
I just love Fridays. I like Fridays because they are starting the weekend. And I also like Fridays because it's our listeners that kind of drive the content. And it's really nice to have people ask us questions and tell us what they would like us to talk about instead of just criticizing us for being too positive or negative on someone. I mean, this is a podcast. We're going to share our opinions. But I like that people are asking questions and telling us, like, giving us ideas for discussion.
Yeah, and before we get into all of your mailbag questions, I want to just take a moment. Today, the ongoing situation with the Vancouver Canucks, it is the worst COVID outbreak we've seen in the NHL this year. And due to the severity of it, they've been off the ice for 2.5 to almost 3 weeks now. They're finally getting healthy enough, and the NHL was going to make them play, I think, like 19 games in 31 days. When there are players that are like, most of us hadn't been out of bed for like a week and they were expected to play. Apparently, like, Quinn Hughes was on an IV drip and a bunch of other things. And the NHL, under intense pressure, has pushed back the games on Friday and Saturday. It now looks like the Canucks might play on Sunday and Monday, which isn't ideal, but they're getting a little bit more time to recuperate and practice. And I know that they do the Mark Messier Leadership Award and everything at the end of the year. If it doesn't go to JT Miller this year, the award's bunk. It's absolute nonsense. That guy got up there last night talking to the media and everything else, and he laid out bare for the world to see how bad this situation was. And it takes a lot of fortitude to get up there and not just tell the truth, but in something like this, it really makes the NHL look absolutely terrible. And my big question with this is, why is JT Miller the only one saying anything? The Aquilinis have never backed down from opening their mouths about anything. Where is Jim Benning? Where was the NHLPA for any of this? I am so glad to see JT Miller stand up for himself and his teammates and player safety, when so many others seemed content to just kind of ride it out and see what happens. I cannot express my appreciation enough for, him standing up and doing that on, what was that, Wednesday night there.
Yeah, I think honestly he was advocating for his team and also all the families and staff, right? Like, it wasn't just the players that were affected. And exactly like you said, the ownership, the management, the NHLPA, all of those people should have made their voices heard. And instead it took a player. But I'm so glad that it actually, it had an effect and the NHL is postponing. And we should hear as well, if there are any schedule changes that affect the Canadiens. I think they said that they would release it on Friday or Saturday. So we should know if there are any schedule changes. We didn't expect there to be very many, But at the same time, I'm glad the NHL is doing what's right, even if they had to do it under pressure.
I think this also paints just how lucky the Canadiens were this season too. Like, they had their outbreak and immediately closed everything down. Jesperi Kotkaniemi was in protocol, but that was because he was a close contact to Joel Armia, who was the only player, and he had one of the new variant strains, but I believe he said he had the UK one, not the Brazilian one. And it's a testament to how quickly things can change. It can go from one case to your entire team, 20 plus people and taxi squad are on the COVID list. Like, that's terrifying. And the NHL kind of being like, well, they can play. Jason Tatum in the NBA mentions that he has to use an inhaler to open his lungs before he plays after he had COVID. It's not a light, easy thing we're dealing with here. And I've seen some people point out that it's like, oh, the NHL put everything on pause for the Canadiens. Like, I don't think they really did. They shut down the games for a week, and then Montreal was just one of the lucky teams where it didn't spread like wildfire through them, whether that just be they caught it early or something. All these cases are not the same thing. We shouldn't be treating them as such, and I'm grateful that it seems like most of the Canucks are getting healthy now. And with so much else, I guess the biggest concern is hoping there isn't any long-term effects for any of these players, because someone like Quinn Hughes, who is so incredible to watch on the ice, the last thing you want to see is having his exciting game, which is all based off of speed and skating and just being out there forever, being knocked down a peg because of a disease that he had no control over. Like, there's so many factors, and I'm really hoping that there aren't any extenuating circumstances off of that.
I would just agree with you. I mean, I agree with everything that you just said.
I'm hoping that the NHL has learned from this. I'm hoping that we have better plans in place than just forcing the season through. And at the same time, if the Canucks aren't healthy enough to play, why do they have to play? They're not in the playoff race right now. They have games against the Senators, who are not in the playoff race right now. Let people recuperate. This isn't something to be taking lightly or anything like that. I get that the NHL is losing money, but at the same time, money's not important when people's health is at risk. It's as simple as that. We're hoping for the best for the rest of the Canucks. We'll see what happens there. We'll see what the schedule changes are. And now, to kind of switch gears a little bit, coming up in our next segment, it is the Friday mailbag, and we're going to get into all your listener questions coming up next. This episode is brought to you by 1010, a capsule collection of diamond rings that are responsibly sourced, limited edition designs at fair price points. 1010 is an exclusive collection of 10 creative styles of diamond rings designed by 10 of the most distinctive designers working today. Rings sure to bring joy into her life. Using only diamonds responsibly sourced from Botswana, 10 female design masters have each produced a uniquely beautiful ring, ideal for engagement, Mother's Day, or simply a beautiful conversation piece. They're the perfect way to bring light into her life. They're available now through Mother's Day only at BlueNile.com. Just search the words 10 by 10. This collection features high quality, fine jewelry that will surprise and delight, and fairly priced so you can give her something special and truly meaningful. If you're on the hunt for the perfect unique ring she'll treasure forever, you're definitely going to want to check this out. They won't be around for long, so find them now by searching the words 10 by 10 only at BlueNile.com.
What's up, everybody? David Harrison here of the Locked On Washington Football Team podcast. I actually just retired from the Army, and while that was a very exciting moment in my life, it also meant uprooting my family one last time. And not only that, but we moved in the midst of COVID, so finding the place that we really wanted to live wasn't as easy as it usually would have been. So we actually have moved a second time, and of course, every time we've had to wonder, is all of our stuff going to fit with our new house? Did you know that people who live in cities move 6 to 8 times before they even hit their early 30s? That's why you got to check out Feather. Feather is a furniture rental company designed for people who want to feel at home no matter how often they move. Furnishing one bedroom can cost upwards of $6,000, but with Feather, you can furnish a bedroom with high-quality, beautifully designed furniture for the cost of your monthly utility bill. Their delivery team brings furniture directly to your home in as little as 7 days. They handle all the heavy lifting so you can go from an empty apartment to a fully furnished home without lifting a finger or assembling anything. And it's not just furniture. They have rugs, lamps, wall art, and more. What if you move to a new place with a different layout? out? No problem. You can easily get furniture that works for any space. Plus, by renting from Feather, you're choosing a sustainable alternative to fast furniture that won't end up in landfills. I remember vividly having to take time off of work or away from family events or social events that I wanted to attend just to wait for several furniture deliveries coming at different times throughout the week, but you don't have to go through that anymore. Try a new way to furnish your home right now. Feather has an exclusive offer just for Locked On listeners. If you go to livefeather.com right now and use the promo code Locked On, you'll receive $300 off your first month. Again, that's livefeather.com and use our promo code Locked On for $300 off your first month.
Get all the sports news you need in under 20 minutes with the Locked On Today podcast. Host Peter Bukowski updates you on the latest news in every major sport with the help of our local experts. Follow the Locked On Today podcast on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. As always, if you want to send us your mailbag questions, you can send them to @LO_Canadians on Twitter or LockedOnCanadians@gmail.com. Laura, I know we've got a good chunk of questions here, so what is in store for us today?
Let's start, as always, with the email questions. This one comes to us from Mike Baranick, and he said some nice things, and thank you so much for listening and supporting for so long. And here's his question. After hearing about Mete being claimed off waivers, I got to thinking, are there any former Habs that we've lost through waivers, trades, or free agents that either of you would consider reacquiring?
Oh man, that's through trade. So like the obvious answer, I would love to have Max Pacioretty or Mikhail Sergachev back, but like I'm trying to think of anyone we've lost through waivers that I've been truly like broken up about, and the only name that truly comes to mind, and this was years ago, was Mark Barberio, who was playing on the second pair with Jeff Petrie for a while. He was a great player for the Ice Caps when they were in St. John's. And I thought he was a really nice compliment to Jeff Petrie on the second pair. But outside of that, some of the names the Canadians have lost on waivers, like Noah Juleson needed a fresh start. Nikita Sherbak disappointed me, but at the same time, not the end of the world. So, yeah, I can't think of anyone really. Mark Barberio, I think, is my waivers answer there.
So when I read the question immediately, I thought Saku, but when I thought about it, I think, the fact that he says reacquiring means that it has to be a player that is still playing or could still play. So I instantly thought Max Pacioretty. That's my answer. So we've got another email question. This was also a really quick one, and it's from Aaron. And it says, is it just me, or does John Merrill not look exactly like the older brother in Stranger Things?
Oh, well, God, I haven't seen Stranger Things in like 2 years. I haven't watched any of the recent ones, so I don't have a frame of reference for this. I'm so sorry.
He does look a little bit like him.
John Merrill would not be out of place in Stranger Things either. If they just like plopped him in there as like a cameo, he would not look out of place with that, with his style and everything. I know we talked about that with Rams, but like I want to see John Merrill like photoshopped into like different TV shows to see how well he fits now. Someone who's good at doing that, start doing that and let us know how that turns out.
Yeah, we could use him we could use the photoshops for like when he scores a goal and does something defensive. So it's played by, the character's played by Charlie Heaton. But he only looks like that if you Google him like in Stranger Things. Like otherwise he looks completely different. But if you Google him like in Stranger Things, he's got like a denim jacket kind of thing going on. And yes, he does. So he does, I agree. So let us move on to our Twitter questions, and we're going to start with Cole's questions. Cole's got a couple questions. One, forget Weber's slap shot. Can we start utilizing Romanov's point shot more often? Well-placed shots mixed with his quick sidestep could be a weapon. Throw in Perry or Toffoli's net presence, and I believe we could light the lamp more often. Do you agree?
I will do literally anything to get Shea Weber's slap shot off the power play, because it doesn't work. And the biggest thing is that Cole is right, is that point shots can be more effective when you use movement, and that's the biggest thing. Shea Weber doesn't do the whole movement thing. And the few times that he does, shockingly, he scores goals. Putting some more mobile options out there is what I want. I'm not going to be shocked to see if they put Eric Gustafsson out there with Shea Weber at some point, because Gustafsson's ability to at least skate and move the puck will probably help a little bit. I think Romanov is someone who should be getting power play time right now. I think it should be Petrie and Romanov on the first and second units, whoever's playing better at the given time, because their mobility allows them to open up new shooting lanes. And Shea Weber just does not do that. Simple as that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with both of these principles. One, you need a more mobile person there, and two, you can utilize net presence there in that moment, because people will be focused on the mobile defenseman in the back, and whoever's up front might get ignored. So Cole has another quick question. With Laval being off for 2 weeks, should we capitalize on this opportunity to bring up some forwards? Ryan Poehling, Blandisi, Wheel, etc. Obviously, they're all centers, but maybe they could be used on the wings. As we near playoffs, I'm concerned injury-wise, and having to call up players that have not played many NHL games in my mind, it could be a thorn in the roster if there happens to be any late injuries. Insurance. Personally, I think that they can call people up, but I worry that their strategy is just going to get affected. Whatever they're trying to improve isn't going to work if the roster is rotating like that.
The other thing is I'm not sure what the salary cap thing looks like. It's not going to be yes, we've called up X, Y, and Z to go into the lineup. Guys still got to go to the taxi squad. People got to be scratched. You got to have bodies in the AHL and everything else. I do agree that I would love to see a lot of these players, but right now, with this whole taxi squad to the NHL, to everything, we also don't know. I believe it's limited how many call-ups you get after the deadline. So they can get called up to the taxi squad, but you only get 3 NHL recalls from there. So if they use them on Poehling, Blandisi, and let's say Caulfield, they don't get any more call-ups until, they have to slide people in for the playoffs when you have the Black Aces and it's unlimited swapping. There's a lot of games left. Don't just burn them because the AHL team is off. Use them when they're most necessary.
Do we have time for one more?
Yep, one more short one.
Pardeep asks us, what is wrong with the Canadiens and why is it coaching?
I don't know if it's the coaching, if it's old habits. Guy Boucher was actually talking about how long it takes to actually get for a new coach to implement a system. So I don't know, if it's Dominique Ducharme, if it's just this team can't break out of the funk they were in, if Ducharme is just opting to that. Across the board, I think it's just all between the ears that mentally they're just missing that little bit to help them get through this. They go down a goal, and we talked about it, and they just kind of collapse on themselves, and that's just no good, honestly.
I'm going to go and agree with you there.
All right, and we will get back to all of your listener questions coming up in our final segment. If you've been listening to Locked On Canadiens, you know that we love Built Bar. Built Bar is the only protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. It's soft, real easy to eat, got chocolate, plenty of incredible flavors. 18 incredible flavors, in fact, and they have both nut and nut-free options for those of us with allergies. And there are flavors from caramel brownie and lemon almond cheesecake to raspberry, German chocolate, double chocolate, orange, toffee almond. There is something for everyone, and they are 100% covered in chocolate, soft and easy to chew. They are low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and high fiber. They are everything you are looking for in a protein bar. And if you go to BuiltBar.com, you can get a free cooler with your purchase while supplies last. All you have to do is put in promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off your next order. So go to BuiltBar.com, put together your box of a dozen flavors and get them shipped. Try them out. Put in promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15, and you're going to get 15% off your next order.
This episode is brought to you by HP Instant Ink. No one is reading your mind, but HP Instant Ink knows when your printer is running low and sends you new cartridges, so you never have to think about ink. Save up to 50%. You'll pay less than $5 a month for ink and never run out again. Find out if your printer is eligible and enroll today at hpinstantink.com. Conditions apply. For details, visit hp.com/instantink Spotify.
Be a waiver wire winner with daily fantasy hockey advice from Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Fantasy hockey expert Scott Cullen gives you the tips, insights, and analysis for season-long dynasty and DFS leagues. Follow the Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Laura, we're in the home stretch here, and I know we've got a good chunk of questions left, so let's dive right back into it.
Guy Rene asks us, how are we sure that the Canadians aren't purposefully jockeying for the fourth position? What if their calculated risk is better off playing Toronto first round and they just flip their collective switch when mathematically it suits the playoff position? Please, I need this.
I mean, if the Canadians are playing that kind of 5D chess, Marc Bergevin's never getting fired ever again, and Dominique Ducharme might be the world's smartest man. It would be hilarious if they were playing like rope-a-dope and then just come out in the playoffs and sweep Toronto. Like, I think that's the funniest possible outcome, and now I want that. I don't think they are, but now that you've put that thought in my brain, it's all that I'm going to be able to think of now.
Exactly. I really want them to beat Toronto. Paul Brancho asks us, is there a correlation between how poorly the Habs play with how poorly Dominique Ducharme wears his mask?
Yes. I'm going to duct tape the damn thing to his face. I swear to God. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was like, you know those wood staplers, those furniture staplers? Like, that's what I want to use.
Oh, God. Laura, Jesus. He's such a sharp dresser, but it's like he's just stick it to your face. I swear to God. Like, there's enough tape on the bench they can make this happen. Like, be smarter than this. Your team had an outbreak of its own. Like, come on.
Yes, be better than this, essentially. So, Jeff the Red asks us, if the Canadians end up missing the playoffs, what are the top 3 things the organization should do?
Fire the Bergevin. He's freaking Batman.
Fire the Bergevin. That's the first thing they will do.
It's simple. We fire the Bergevin. Fire him. You find someone to take Shea Weber's contract. Like, ship him back to Nashville. Do what you have to do. Get him off the books. Give the reins to Jeff Petrie and increase the roles for guys like Alexander Romanov and some of those young guys that are coming up. Create a spot for someone like Jordan Harris and Jayden Struble and them coming up in the future. And then ensure that you have the up-and-coming talents like Jesse Yolonen, Cole Caulfield, Ryan Poehling, surrounded with the right people to help them grow into their roles. Like, Poehling's looking more and more like he's going to be a solid bottom 6 center. Yolonen and Caulfield look like they should be really fun scoring threats. And someone like Raphael Harvey-Pinard could make a case anywhere up and down the lineup with the way that he plays. Make sure that they are supported in the roles. Find a way to keep Joel Bouchard in this organization for as long as you can to make sure that this development doesn't slow down.
I'm going to agree with you there, and I would say if you're firing Bergevin, the new guy might want to hire their own coaching staff, but at the very least, you have to take a good long look at Luke Richardson and see if he should still be coaching this team or still be doing the D-coaching on this team. Next question, also from Jeff the Red. If John Merrill partners with Alexander Romanov, what hair-related nickname could we give that defensive pairing?
Oh, I had something for this. Oh, God. I had something for this, and now I don't know what it was. But it was something with mullets in Russia, and I don't remember what it was, and I'm going to be really mad at myself for it now.
I'm trying to think of a pun that includes the word flow, but I have no idea.
I will come back to this. When I come up with a nickname for this, I will tweet it out, and we will retweet it on the show account, because now I need to think about this. It's gonna drive me nuts all night now.
Same. Sort of related, Jeff the Red. What is your comfort food and drink for lockdown or poor Habs performances?
Oh man, when we're talking about lockdown, they mean like, I assume pandemic related, and I don't know what that is because I have to work an essential job. I love 7-Eleven taquitos. I don't care how nasty and disgusting they are, but every now and then I'm like, I just need some, taco and cheese taquitos from 7-Eleven. And I love Snapple peach tea. I, love light blue Gatorade or even just water. If the Canadians are deciding to play like garbage, it's Four Roses bourbon during the game, though.
Got it. So I always like a good poutine. That's a classic. That's my comfort food, no matter what. I guess my comfort drink is a good white wine. Like, I really like Sauvignon Blanc. So that's my comfort drink. Okay, so we're moving on to our old friend Randy Hansen, who's always really kind to us and always gives us lots of things to think about. The first one is, what number do you want to see in regular use but never is? 89 for me.
So what number we want to see in regular use that isn't? Yeah. The answer's so obvious, and you know exactly.
I know you're going to say it. I know
you know exactly what I'm going to say.
So go ahead and say it.
It's 69.
Nice.
Like, it's all I need. I don't need a goal horn. If anyone wearing that number scores, there just needs to be like, instead of the goal horn, it's just someone going nice whenever they score. Nothing else. It's all I want in my entire life is that.
We are grown-ups. Next question from Randy. I love a red car. What is your go-to color?
Well, I have a light silver, like tannish colored car, but I do love a nice, like forest green kind of colored car. It stands out, but not so much that it draws unwanted attention from anything. I'm a green person to begin with, so like I definitely a nice dark rich green car for me.
So my car is like this teal-ish color. It's like a light. It's a silvery teal. If you guys know the Mazda from like the early 2010s, that's a color that was circulating. So that's the car I have. I do like red cars, but for the exact reason that you alluded to, I don't have one because for whatever reason, the research states that, red cars get pulled over more often. They get caught for speeding more often, but I really like a red car and I want like my dream car is like a small SUV, like a CUV almost, and like bright red. Randy also asks us, spiced chai or chamomile for relaxing in an overstuffed chair?
I'm not really a tea person, so hot chocolate is my answer.
So between those two, it's spiced chai, but I've lately started drinking the herbal hot cinnamon spice from Harney Teas. I think it's called Harney & Sons, the brand. And one of our favorites, Hannah Stewart, who was on our show actually talking about prospects and is one of our favorite supporters of the Small Goals Boy, introduced me to hot cinnamon spice, and it's you can get the black tea or you can get the rooibos tea. So I get the rooibos tea, and that's my relaxing. Since the beginning of the pandemic, I ordered it very early on. That is my relaxing sort of tea that I choose. And we've got some questions from one of our good friends of the show, Beth, from the Happy Hour. Check them out always. And her questions are, the first one, what outdoor activity do you most want to do with John Merrill?
I want to go fishing. I don't know the general idea of what goes into going out for a rip, but whatever that entails is what I want to go do with John Merrill. Because he's going to show up.
Out for a rip, are you, Bet?
Yeah, just going out for a rip with the boys, eh? Like, we're going to go crack some natter days, hang out, and I want to be friends with John Merrill, and I haven't even met the man. Like, it's simple as that. Like,
I wonder if he knows how many people just like think of him as a legend now based solely on his look. My personal one, because I don't like. I feel like fishing would be like peaceful and enjoyable, but I don't like the actual like the fishing aspect of it, or hunting. Like, I'm not about to shoot living things, so I don't do that kind of stuff. But I feel like I'm a hiker, so I'm hoping that maybe he would be a hiker too, so that we would go hiking together. And if there are any snakes, then he will, notice and distract me so that I won't have to look at them. Do you think, so this is Beth, do you think John Merrill enjoys knowing he shares his name with a Pokemon?
I would be shocked if John Merrill even knew that Pokemon existed, if we're being fully honest here.
Will Laura meet Nala when the border opens? Well, I hope so.
That is a very good question. If Laura's ever in Buffalo, obviously you are always welcome at the apartment to meet the very, very needy orange cat, the queen, as we call her. She is very needy and always... The more people who are there to pet her and pay attention to her, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and And that, like I said, I do hope so, because I am a fan of Nala from a distance. I'm one of her internet fans. So final 2 questions. How are you both doing? Are you being hugged regularly?
Yes, doing quite well, as best as I can be. Job searching is tough, but overall can't complain. I've got a great co-host, a great podcast, and a great supporting group of people on the internet and in life that are helping to get through a lot of what's been a tumultuous year or so.
I'm doing well. I can't complain. You know, I got to keep my jobs, and I luckily, thankfully, have not lost family members to COVID. So to me, like when you're thinking about that stuff, obviously being in lockdown isn't fun. All these restrictions aren't fun. I miss the way things used to be before, where you could just go out and do whatever you want and see people. As for being hugged, this sounds kind of sad, but it's really not. Like, I understand, like, why we're doing it, and I'm happy to make that sacrifice. So my bubble is very small. It's my sister and her boyfriend. And my sister works at school. So, it doesn't, you know, like for me, like to be safe. And I know lots of people are out there, you know, they have a little bit of a bigger bubble depending on the rules, depending on the cases, you know, and I know a lot of people that have spent the pandemic, like finding their person, and I'm very, very happy for them. But personally for me, given my anxiety and my anxiety of passing it on, like I've just decided to stay 6 feet away from people at all times, no matter how close they are to me. Like, you know, like in life. But you know, as soon as I'm fully inoculated, everybody's getting lots and lots of big, big hugs. So I think it's something to look forward to.
We got anything else left in questions, Laura?
That's the questions.
All right. As always, if you want to send us more questions at @LO_Canadians on Twitter, you can also send them to LockedOnCanadians@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow Laura at The Active Stick, myself at Scott Matla, and you can find the show wherever you get your podcasts. We will see you after this very busy weekend for the Canadians, and as always, thank you for listening and take care of each other out there.